Welcome to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Now, here's Ed Wilson with God's 5 Minutes.
Hello, friends. The religions of the world can be largely gathered into two broad categories, namely natural and revealed. Natural religion means the religious beliefs people develop when they feel the God-given urge to worship, but have no information about what or how to do so. The result is worship of the natural things they can see or imagine about them. By contrast, Judaism and Christianity are revealed religion. We have had our God who has sent messengers to give us messages and books, 66 of them in the case of the Bible, that tell us who He is and how we should worship Him. When the Israelites were receiving instructions from Moses about how they were to live in the land to which God had led them, he gave them this from Deuteronomy 18. When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. There shall not be found among you any that useth divination, nor an observer of times, nor an enchanter or a witch. For all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. The Lord thy God will raise up unto thee a prophet from the midst of thee, of thy brethren, like unto me. Unto him ye shall hearken. This prophet, promised from their own ranks, finds its fulfillment in Jesus Christ. He is both our high priest and our prophet. It is the duty of the priest to take the people to God. It is the duty of the prophet to get the word at the mouth of the Lord and give it to the people. Well, it's evident Jesus was not alone in that office. Israelite history is studded with prophets whose work during century built on century established the moral, ethic, and civic duties of their nation. The work of these men and women of God was to be a defense against the temptation to rely on the tricks and mysteries of the heathen. This passage disavows the signs of the zodiac, telling futures by reading palms or tricks with cards and crystal balls. Those who practice such tend to veil their efforts in a cloak of mysticism, using signs and symbols and charts and potions. Moses told his people, those who legitimately bring you understanding in supernatural things, the commands of God and the foretelling of events, will be people just like I am. Somehow it's in people to long for something exciting or dramatic. Moses said the prophets God will send will be ordinary people. Almost everyone around Moses had known him all their lives. He was as familiar as an old shoe, easy to talk to every day, nothing about him hidden or mysterious except when God called him to special sacred duties. Jesus was the same. Although there was always a deep spirituality about him that sometimes intimidated his disciples, overall his ministry breathes a fragrant humility and commonness that made him an easy and pleasant companion, an intimate and personal friend. Likewise, Paul could remind his young disciple Timothy, "Thou hast fully known my manner of life." While teaching the profoundest truths ever revealed to mankind, Paul remained to his friends only a tent maker. He did not try to distinguish himself from others by fancy clothing, intended to mark him as different, or by requiring special concessions to his person or belongings, or reputation as making him in any way superior to others. It was his doctrine that was sacred, not his person. The way God used the order of prophets swept aside all the rabble of diviners and sorcerers with their rubbish of charms and muttered spells. His prophets truly are what the magicians pretend to be. God knows people's longings, and He will meet them so long as meeting them is for our good. But the characteristics of the prophet are set in strong contrast to those of the diviners and magicians, and lift the order high above all the filth and folly of these others. First, the prophet is raised up by God. The individual holder of the office has his call and does not prophesy out of his own heart. Then is to be like Moses in receiving direct messages from God. The crowning characteristic, I will put my words into his mouth, widens his sphere far beyond storytelling. It includes the moral and religious component. Have you talked to God today?
You have been listening to God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson. Reach him by email at GodsFiveMinutes@gmail.com. Tune in next time to hear more encouraging thoughts from God's Word on God's 5 Minutes with Pastor Ed Wilson.
The world is in chaos. You're here for a purpose. What does the Bible have to say about it all? I'm Mark Taylor, host of Crosspoint podcast and radio show, and I'd like to invite you to join me each week as I navigate the complexities of faith, culture, and personal growth. Each week, I interview a different guest who is making an impact on the culture for God's kingdom. Whether you're seeking spiritual guidance, true information, or a fresh perspective, this podcast equips you to discern truth in today's chaotic world. When Christianity intersects with everyday life, that's where you'll find Crosspoint, sometimes discussing the issues that some churches don't want to talk about. Look up Crosspoint with Mark Taylor wherever you get your podcast, produced by KNEO Radio and the Sky High Podcast Network.